Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and as you guys know, this entire channel is all about money, how to make it, how to spend it, how to make more, how to invest it. But in reality, this video right here is about the sacred search, a book about marriage and how to find the right person to go ahead and marry. Tommy, this video does not belong on this channel, but in reality, it does, because basically, if you marry the wrong person, or for example, on a relationship with the wrong person, most likely you're not going to become rich or wealthy, because if you're not on the same page, you're not going to get to where you actually want to get to. And that's why today I'm making this video here, because basically, if you care about money, investing, finance, budgeting, all this stuff, eventually you're going to have to do it with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife, and then you'll have kids, and then there's extra stuff going on. So in reality, that's why I'm making this video right here. And on top of that, guys, I always had a rule where basically if a book was too religious, or for example talked about God way too much, usually I wouldn't make a video about it, because basically not everyone out there is religious, although I am. But in reality, I don't like books with an agenda. I'm just being honest here. I like books with the stuff I intended to read this book about. But this book right here, although it is religious in a way, it does contain a lot of good information. It is not just all about, oh my gosh, this and that, this agenda. No, it's a book that even if you're not religious, I recommend you read it, because basically it contains a lot of information that you will need when going out there and marrying and looking for the right person, okay? That's the whole idea here. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, guys, I post videos every single day, so you should also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. On top of that, also dismantle the like button. And by the way, disclaimer here, guys, okay? The worst thing I've noticed when it comes to knowledge is that basically some information out there has a stigma or is embarrassing to talk about, so usually people don't learn enough about it. For example, money. When I was growing up, if you were broke, you still shut up and you don't talk about it, and guess what? You stayed broke. But today it's more like, hey, if you're broke, go on YouTube, learn about it, and then go out there and basically learn how to make more money. And on top of that, when I go to the barber shop, even though I cut my own hair, but I go there for business reasons, in reality, people always talk about, now, hey, did you hear about this stock and how to make more money here and there? To me, that's awesome. But it used to have a stigma and also embarrassment attached to it. And so does this topic when it comes to marriage and who to marry and all this stuff. In reality, there's stigma around it, because basically whatever goes in your house or whatever's going on in your life relating to that, usually you want to keep it between you and yourself. But in reality, I found out that's usually not the best way to go out through life and actually learn more about the things that you basically don't know anything about. Okay, in life, it's all about learning. And that's why I'm making this video today, to go ahead and learn about this stuff. Now, the first thing is this, okay, guys? Tell me, background here. Why did you, out of all people, decide to go ahead and read this book right here? Well, in reality, as you guys know, I'm very transparent when it comes to money, but I'm also transparent when it comes to most of my life, okay? And I grew up with a superhero mom. Honestly, my mom is amazing, but in reality, I did not grow up in a two-family household. Not two-family, what is it called? See, I don't even know the name for it, okay? But the answer is, I didn't grow up in a stable home, where basically, you had my mom, you had my dad, we grew up together, big family, great stuff, awesome, right? I didn't grow up in that environment. On top of that, all of my friends also were raised usually by single moms. And also, I only had one friend that was actually, like his mom was married to his father, been together for a long time. And then all of a sudden, they get divorced. And then all of a sudden, my friend starts doing crazy stuff that I'm no longer friends with him for. Now, the idea is that, because of this, I realized that basically, hey, although I love my mom and she did an amazing job, how can I make sure that that doesn't happen to me, where I have to raise a kid by myself? Because although she did a great job, that's not something that I'm interested in doing, right? So I have to make sure I pick the right person to go ahead and marry. Now, right then and there, usually, you don't want to ask anyone like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because it's embarrassing, right? So I took the same approach when it comes to finance. When I don't know something about business or making money or this investment, I go out there and I read about the people that know the most about it. On top of that, I asked the people that I know the most about it. So I started asking people that were married for a very long time and had a very healthy track record. Hey, what did you do to stay married for so long? Well, conversation, transparency, being on the same page. And on top of that, I decided to go ahead and read this book to get even a broader understanding. And on top of that, I also bought some books relating to, hey, how do you go ahead and raise a kid? You know, when you get married for the first time. When you have a kid, you have a kid for the first time. So you kind of have to do it right. And in order to do something right like that, you have to go ahead and do research. That's what I did. And that's why, in a way, I read this book. Because although I had, you know, a good childhood in a way, I want to make sure I avoid those mistakes when it comes to me raising my kids and marrying a person that I actually want to marry and so on, and not getting divorced and not going through all that headache, because in reality it wasn't easy either for me as a kid either. So I don't want to put my kids through that either. Does it make sense? It makes sense. I hope it does. But now let's talk about this book and the things I found in the book and basically what I enjoyed the most. And by the way, I usually get a lot of advice saying, for example, hey, Tommy, just don't get married. You don't need to get married, all this stuff. Just don't do it. And, you know, I get where that comes from. Like, hey, you grew up with like a single mom or a single dad. And on top of that, all your friends had the same issue, bad relationships. People get divorced all the time, 50% rate in the United States. I get all that stuff, okay? But it's kind of like, hey, most people are broke. But I'm not broke anymore, because basically I'm doing things and I'm learning from people that aren't broke, and I'm doing the correct thing. So I think the same aspect of that is going to translate when it comes to marriage. If you take the same like due diligence that you take for money and you put it into marriage, well, that's not going to happen. Okay, that's how things basically work out. If you know something, you do things correctly, usually life doesn't really screw you over that much. Now, the first thing is this, guys, okay? In this book, obviously, the guy is religious. So there's a lot of God talk in here, but it's not really bad. It's not really like, hey, here's this and that. No, it's more like, hey, here's why I think this way, but also here's the research, and there's also the science behind this whole thing. So there's enough substance in here that it's not all about just the agenda of religion and all this stuff, okay? Although I'm religious and I actually like this book a lot, you know, if you're not into that stuff, in reality, this book is still going to be a very good read for you, and you will walk away learning a lot more than you knew before. Now, the main three parts that I actually enjoyed the most about this book, and by the way, there's a lot in here, is basically the first part I enjoyed the most, the first nugget, the first thing I found that sparked my mind. And it's the idea that, hey, real love, or for example, getting married, is not Hollywood, okay? It's not Hollywood, it's not Disney. The first movie I saw from America, guys, was basically Alladin. You guys remember Alladin? Where the guy finds this girl, falls in love right there, does everything together, finally gets her, they fall in love, they're the one for each other, they're supposed to be together forever. And Hollywood, where basically you walk by someone, you glimpse, all of a sudden that's the one for you, and then you have a conflict, you resolve it, you guys are together forever, right? There's that concept of, hey, there's only one person out there for you, so once you find them, you hold on and you make it work with everything possible. But in reality, that's actually not true. That's just Hollywood love. And on top of that, in this book, he goes into detail about basically where does that mindset come from? And it comes from Plato. Now, Plato, if you guys don't know, is super old. The guy hasn't been here for a long, long time. It's like from around like 460 BC, something like that. A very, very long time ago. But the idea is that there was a story, and in the story, well, Plato says, for example, hey, by the way, I have a picture here. Humans used to be like this, like, you know, together, sharing one soul. But then in reality, Zeus said, hey, they're too powerful, so let's split them apart and scatter them. So that's why whenever you find your soulmate, you feel like, hey, this person completes my soul. That's where that story basically comes from. And that's how we have Disney and Hollywood and all that stuff, okay? But in reality, that's all fiction. It's not really like that. In reality, whenever it comes to finding love and all this stuff, and you kind of feel these emotions, it's not like, oh my gosh, my soulmate. It's more like just biology, okay? When you fall in love, you get a lot of dopamine release to the point where you can actually become addicted to a person. It's all just brain chemicals going crazy in your brain when you find someone you're very attracted to and you actually like them a ton. It's a normal reaction, but it's not about, hey, there's only one soulmate, there's only one this. No, in reality, that's all just like movies and stuff like that. And on top of that, guys, well, tell me, if that's not real, then what is real? What's real is basically when you go out there and look for someone, you're intentionally looking for someone that's going to be with you forever. If that's what you want, unless you want like, hey, I want to be with this. That's not the point here about this video. But the answer is, if you want to find someone that's going to be with you forever, you have to be intentional about what you're looking for and also what you want and why you actually want that. That's why this whole book is about, hey, it's not about who you marry, but it's more about why you're marrying that person. That's the most important part. It's not about, hey, this girl right here or this guy right here looks like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. It's more about like, hey, this person is amazing and it's gonna be a good future mother or father and it shares a lot of my values. For example, what do you think about money? The same idea or not the same idea? What do you think about kids? How many do they want? Do they even want kids? Same page? Not the same page. Also, your in-laws. How are you going to deal with them? If your mom is mad or my mom is mad, what do you do then? If they're crazy, if both of them are crazy, what do you do then? On top of that, how do you guys feel about religion? Are you on the same page there or not the same page? All these things right here are very important. And most people that get married, they don't talk and break down all these factors. And that's usually why you see such a high divorce rate. It's kind of like, hey, saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to enter an agreement with you for life, but I don't know anything about you really, but I do feel like, hey, I like you, and after 18 months, well, I don't like you anymore. Let's go ahead and get divorced, okay? That's why that is the way it is. Now, that's the first thing I learned in this book. Now, the second part is basically, and I gave you a hint already, and the second part is all about the 18-month love bird period. Now, in business, guys, and finance, there's a period where an entrepreneur wants to keep restarting and doesn't know what works and what doesn't work. So in reality, we have a rule where we have to give a business at least 18 months to see if basically if it works or if it doesn't work. That way you know for a fact, hey, it works or it doesn't work. I did that with YouTube and I made a video every single day for 18 months. So hey, it worked or it didn't work, okay? That's the idea. The same thing happens with a relationship. During that first year or that first 18 months, you guys are infatuated, obsessed, going crazy about each other, right? So in reality, you can't really think clearly. But after 18 months, usually all the dopamine and the brain chemicals usually tend to slow down a little bit. And then you can go ahead and think a lot clearer. But before that point, usually people are already married or in long-term relationships, they're like going crazy about it. But in reality, you're supposed to take that 18 months period not to complicate things, but to basically learn more about each other and see exactly if you guys are a good fit for each other. Again, being intentional and asking all the right questions. And by the way, in the book, the guy says, hey, don't complicate this by, doing the dirty, okay? Don't do the dirty during this time period because basically you don't want to complicate it because you want to be intentional about, hey, is this person someone I like? Am I attracted to them? Yes, but what about all of the other factors? And by the way, sometimes you yourself cannot be a good judge. So you might want to bring them around your friends and see what your friends think about them. Because in reality, you might not spot all the red flags because you might be the parent with the bad kid that in reality thinks his kid is an angel. But in reality, it's not an angel, okay? The kid is bad. And you might see the same thing with that person you like, where basically you ignore all the flaws and you just say, hey, they're perfect. Everything is fine. I don't see any problems here. But he has a knife behind your back, okay? No, you kind of want to avoid that, okay? So the 18-month period is supposed to be to find out, hey, is this person good or not a good fit for me? If they're not, you might just want to go ahead and walk away. And that's why the third thing I learned in this book also is attached to this. And it's the idea that, hey, what if they're not a good fit for me, but I'm in love with them, right? And the idea is that, hey, in reality, you can't change anyone. And the worst idea is basically you don't want to marry someone to have the sake or, for example, the hope of going ahead and changing them. That is not a good idea. Usually, you can't change people. They can only go ahead and change when they're actually ready. That's the common rule and the common theme we see usually in life. And when it comes to friendships, when you kind of say, hey, I have a friend, but I want to grow, and they don't want to grow, eventually, you guys grow apart. But with a relationship, you guys are so obsessed with each other to the point where, hey, you know what? They don't want to do anything right now, but I'll just stay here and maybe in the future they'll change. Usually they don't change. And you don't want to marry someone and attach yourself to a contract hoping they change. That is not what you want to do. And usually you want to go ahead and cut that relationship right off, okay? And that's why here's the bonus here, okay? You don't want to marry someone or be in a relationship just for mercy. Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna get married, but it's basically because I don't want to hurt that person's feelings, okay? No, you gotta let that go. In the book, it says, hey, you gotta go ahead and break it off. And sometimes you might have to ask for help from friends. Say, hey, you know what? This relationship is over. They don't want to see you anymore. It's fine because it might be too hard for you. But if you know, hey, the facts do not add up, you might just want to go ahead and basically break it off. And lastly, okay, although it's not mentioned in this book, Warren Buffett says all the time, hey, it's never a good idea to marry for money, especially when you have money already. It's entirely stupid, okay? Don't ever go ahead and marry for money either. That's also obviously not a good idea. And lastly, guys, okay, overall, after reading this book, I sat down with my girlfriend and we nearly almost broke up. That's how heavy these questions really are. And that's why it's so important that even after almost 5 years together, we hadn't touched on all these topics. In reality, we didn't know that much. And now we're on the same page because basically we had to go through all of these hard conversations and be very intentional with each other. And that's why today, I think it made us a better couple than we were before. And that's the whole idea. The entire idea is, hey, you want to learn every single day and you want to be intentional with everything you do. Now, guys, obviously, I highly recommend you read this book if you want to learn more about relationships and also marriage and all this stuff. So if you want to read this book for free, I have a link down below to Audible. And when you sign up with my link, you go ahead and get 2 free books. And if you cancel, you can still go ahead and keep those 2 free books at no cost to you. Link down below when you sign up with my link, okay? And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. As always, like this video if you liked it. On top of that, also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified when I post a new video. And if you guys want to text me or talk to me one-on-one, join my Patreon, link down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And on top of that, before I go, here's a full playlist of other videos I've done on books also if you're into that. And also, click my face right now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.